wholeheartedly and with respect. May new judicial year be auspicious for our judges, for our prosecutors, our lawyers, and for the whole judicial system of ours. Last year, we have carried out the inauguration ceremony of our Court of Cassation building together with the judicial year. May it be auspicious for our country. The public buildings are enabling state to serve better to their citizens, but at the same time, they are also an important part of our culture. All around our country, different civilizations, different states have built many buildings, and we see all those buildings as one of our richness, and that's why we embrace all of them. And the masterpieces that we are building today hopefully will bear the same meaning for the future generations, which I sincerely believe. Such kind of masterpieces, which are indeed the stems of the everlasting presence of our nation in those homelands, and we thank the ones who constructed all those buildings. In order to measure the distance that we have covered so far, hopefully 2023 will serve us to make such assessments. And 2023 hopefully will enable us to dream more and set forth new targets. And we also believe that such endeavors, such efforts will be put in terms of strengthening our judicial system and judicial infrastructure. Distinguished guests, as it is stipulated in the Constitution of the Republic of Turkey is a state based on rule of law. It's a social state as well. This concept, as it is stipulated in our Constitution, the state of law, is a very important concept. At the center of many human struggles, there was always this seeking for the state of law. As a result, in order to strengthen the rule of law in our country, we have realized many important reforms. And the most important feature of those reforms were the fact that we tried to strengthen the liberties and the rights of our women and our children. Indeed, almost all the constitutions enacted in our country were the results of extraordinary times, which we have articulated as one of our problems. The current constitution that we have right now has been put into practice after the 1980 coup attempt. Although we have amended this constitution remarkably, we shouldn't forget that the product, this constitution that we have at our discretion, is the product of a coup attempt. That's why we have repeated our calls for preparing a new constitution. And sometimes, although they are weak in their strength, certain steps have been taken in order to prepare the new constitution. Unfortunately, those endeavors didn't bear any results since we couldn't come to terms with the other political parties. But all the same, we have continued with our efforts and endeavors for preparing a new constitution. Last year, we have once again repeated our call to the political parties to prepare a new constitution. And we have prepared our draft, which would be negotiated. Unfortunately, this call of ours were not answered. We couldn't receive any concrete draft constitution from the other political parties. At the end of the day, we are in need of a constitution which is democratic, which is also libertarian in its essence, but unfortunately we couldn't make sure that such a constitution can be enacted. But we didn't lose our hopes, but hopefully when the political environment is ripe enough, we will be able to initiate another study for preparing a brand new constitution. Distinguished guests, from the enactment of our new constitution, many changes and amendments have been made within the last 40 years, which we find very important. Within this framework, in order to improve the liberties and rights, many reforms have been carried out so far, and I would like to remind those reforms. All those agreements regarding to the fundamental rights have become an integral part of our domestic law, and we have founded the institution of ombudsmanship, and we have taken the fundamental and basic human rights under guarantee by constructing the Turkish Equality Center. We have made sure that the human rights are protected. And we have also eradicated the difference between the civilian law and the military law. As a result, we have provided unity. The majority of the judges and prosecutors have been defined by the parliament. As a result, we have increased the legitimacy of this council. By realizing the judicial reform strategy, we have presented the developments in the technology to the discretion of our judicial system. And the alternative conflict resolution methodologies have been put into practice. The Court of Appeals have become a reality in our country. The criminal code, the criminal code of procedures, and the execution and enforcement law has been renewed. The law on liabilities and the Turkish trade law, starting with all those renewals, we have renewed many of our legislation. In order to make sure that the members of our judiciary can be raised much better, we have established the institution of the Educational Center for our High Council of Judges and Prosecutors. We have constructed 270 Court of Justices, and we have increased the indoor areas to the level of 560,000 square meters, so that we made sure that the legal services are provided in the courtrooms of higher quality. Shortly, new Ankara Palace of Justice tender will be carried out. May it be auspicious for our city and for our nation. In order to make sure that the justice is served on the right time, we made sure that our members of the judiciary can make use of the ICT technologies. We have also increased the number of our judges and prosecutors. The courtrooms in the Court of Justices increased by 91.63%, reaching to more than 6,000. And in the administrative jurisdiction, we have increased the number of our courtrooms by 600%. Despite there is a lack of judges and prosecutors after some of them have been sacked from their position due to the Fethullah terrorist organization coup attempt. The number of our judges and prosecutors have been increased remarkably. So in a nutshell, we have taken many necessary steps and we have realized many regulations in order to ease the burden of our judges and prosecutors, and at the same time to ease the burden on our judicial system. From the Court of First Instances to the Supreme Court, we have turned those courtrooms from the places of burden to the peaceful working environment. This in itself is a success story. Distinguished guests, in addition to all those reform activities, we will also carry out some improvements in our judicial system. First and foremost, we should solve the problems of our lawyers and legal counselor. That's why we will work and cooperate with our bars. Due to certain reasons, some of our citizens are deprived of their rights, which upsets all of us. So in order to prevent this, we will be reassessing our administrative jurisdiction. And hopefully the legal guardianship insurance will be realized in Turkey as well. Based on the recommendation to practice. The artificial intelligence will be at the service of our judges and prosecutors, and in order to realize this, we are making our necessary preparations. In order to increase the gratification from the legal services, we will take some additional steps, and we will ease the access to the legal services, and we will simplify the legal proceedings. The alternative conflict resolutions and their scope hopefully will be improved. In order to make sure that the justice is served on time, new projects will be commissioned. So thanks to all those activities, hopefully the trust of our nation to the judicial system will be increased to the highest level. Order, balance, equality, neutrality, and honesty is correlated with the concept of justice. As a result, serving justice is one of the hardest things, which you know very well. That's why the justice served later than it should be is no justice at all. We should never forget this understanding. The justice can be served only if the right mechanisms are established and through the qualified personnel. We should never forget this. Unfortunately, there are the ones who are criticizing our judicial system and trying to abuse our judicial system to the targets of certain gangs and criminals. And we will never allow such kind of a vile attempt come to fruition. The Republic of Turkey is no country whose direction can be drawn by some shadowy criminal gangs. So at the end of the day, the response to such kind of provocations and speculations and attempts will be given within the borders of our justice system. Especially the assessments regarding to the verdicts of the European Court of Human Rights, I would like to clearly state that the European Court of Human Rights verdict of Turkey, the European Court of Human Rights give political decisions, but when it is France and Germany, then we see that those decisions are not based on the political decisions. So, trying to make sure that this judicial system collapse is something else rather than criticizing the verdicts. The necessary steps can be taken in order to improve the judicial system, but showing hostility towards the justice is no tolerable behavior. It is indeed nothing but treason. The notion of justice has a very important place in our civilization, and that's why we have repeatedly explained the importance of justice in our lives. The judicial organizations, our judges, our prosecutors, are not to be targeted via their decisions, but they are also targeted immorally as well. So I do believe that we are on the same page in that regard. At the end of the day, they are not trying to strengthen the state of law here, but they are trying to abuse the legal means for their own agendas, and we have observed similar attitudes in the field of legislative and executive powers as well, because in the past they indeed absorbed the energy of this country via same methodologies and waste our times. So they are trying to threaten us and also blackmail us in order to reach out to their dirty games. That's why the ones who are uneasy about the verdict of our judicial system, they are indeed serving to the purpose of some external forces. So we know that the attempts to weaken the reputation of our judicial system is carried out, and we are upset with the fact that such attempts are taking place. Through groundless accusations, they are trying to put dirt and snare our judicial organizations, and when we see those attempts are taking place, we are saddened on behalf of our nation. Otherwise, we have no reservation whatsoever to fight those on the political ground. At the end of the day, we want to make sure that the trust of our nation to our judicial system is not distorted at all, so we would like to preserve the rule of law at all costs. Hopefully, together with our legislative, executive and judicial powers and with our nation, hopefully the justice will be strengthened even further, and we will make sure that we will be drying this swamp. Distinguished guests, the whole world is going through times where the global order is reshaken from top to bottom. Starting with the global pandemic, this process has been aggravated with the Russian and Ukrainian war, and this process has brought Turkey to a historical turning point. The Republic of Turkey has spent its last century with the attempts of revival, and in order to build the democratic and economic development infrastructure, we barely finished it. The collapse of the Ottoman Empire, which lasted 600 years, had been followed by the foundation of our republic, and it was not easy for some to digest this development. The tutelage coup attempts, the economic collapses, the terrorism, the social tensions and international pressures, all of them on our country can be evaluated and assessed separately. There is one reality and one fact that right now the Republic of Turkey is playing on a totally different league, on a totally different level. So all those attempts are once again proving that we are at a level of tapping our potential. So with the investments in our infrastructure, we have prepared ourselves for these days. Being at the threshold of a 100-year anniversary was no easy for us. But as the whole world was in turmoil, we made sure that we are ready for the building of the Turkey of the upcoming 100 years. From education to health, from safety and security to justice, from industry to agriculture, in every field, we have the necessary means. with its production, with its employment and exports. The Republic of Turkey will go beyond its region, and Turkey will rise as a political and economic power in its region. As it is the case domestically, we have the necessary power and will and efficiency to march towards our targets abroad. From Europe to Asia, from America to Africa, all around the world, through our political relations and diplomatic networks, and via our NGOs, and even with our military presence, we made sure that we are accepted by the regional players. This was not the case only in Ukrainian crisis, but in many other places. As the voice of consciousness and peace, there are indeed almost one single country who can carry out those diplomatic correspondences. This balanced policy inherited to us from our ancestors have indeed changed the perception of many regional players to those conflicts, and we have observed that the confidence of our people in themselves are so strong that it doesn't matter wherever you go. We see that our citizens are writing success stories in different countries where they went without a baggage in their hands. Our companies have a louder voice in the international markets, and the success stories of our NGOs are legendary in itself, and they are winning the hearts of many people. I am telling you all those stories for a reason, because the Republic of Turkey is a country which cannot be marginalized from the international system. Everyone, every individual, every institution should prepare itself in accordance with the realities of New Turkey, and our judicial system is not out of this reality as well. That's why I'm making my call from this rostrum. Within the coordination of our Ministry of Justice, our judiciary should prepare the vision of 2053. From the improvement of the institutional capacity to strengthening our justice system, every organ, every judicial organization should take part in this process. Once again, I wish that the judicial year 2022-2023 be auspicious to our judges, prosecutors, and to the whole system. I greet you all with love and respect. May you all stay healthy and safe.
Çok teşekkür ediyoruz efendim. Programımız burada sona eriyor. Yeni adli yılın tüm yargı camiamız ve elbette milletimiz için, ülkemiz için hayırlı olmasını diliyoruz. Başta teşrifleriyle onurlandıran Sayın Cumhurbaşkanımız olmak üzere katılımlarınızdan dolayı siz değerli misafirlerimize çok teşekkür ediyoruz. Sağ olunuz, var olunuz efendim.